Rolling.
Okay.
So can we have your introduction?
Yeah, rolling.
Yeah.
Well, hello. I am Nagabhushanam. I am now freelance trainer for schools, private schools particularly. Help schools make changes, improvements by giving training to teachers, interacting with students, also working with parents, which is a very important aspect of the school change or transformation. My idea of getting into education, actually the seeds came from Neel Bagh, where I was as a child. I spent about 3 years, short, but I think I had enough impact on me to brood upon many ideas and then chisel out a way of my life. I was there for 3 years, as I was saying, in I think late 70s. Must have been there 76, 77, 78 particularly. And I was there because of my father, Mr. Narayan, who was teaching pottery in Rishi Valley. And in fact, my father was kind of inducted into Rishi Valley by David way back in 1956, where David was in charge of craft section, and literally he gave a lot of ideas to my father to work on clay to turn it into a teaching mode. So then my father worked with clay from David's ideas and then became a very skillful and a good craftsman who taught also in Rishi Valley for more than 30 years. In that journey of his, we had this 3-year gap wherein David had invited him to come and join the school in Neel Bagh, where he created for himself as a brainchild, in his mind. And that life in Neel Bagh, of course at that time I had no clue as to what I was doing there and what was going on in my mind. But then as I started growing, as I started maturing, things started making a lot of connects, because Neel Bagh had given a lot of base, like a garden base, where the seeds were sown and they were sprouting slowly. And myself, again, going back to Rishi Valley, and the Rishi Valley exposure was also kind of a nourishment to those saplings, and it went on like that. After my graduation, I took to teaching, because the teaching idea, perhaps it came from David himself, because the way we saw David as a complete human being, interacting with children, with teachers, with parents, with villagers, and also with so many skills that he always held towards teaching children. So that really impressed me. And also similarly, I had an opportunity in Rishi Valley to learn very many things. So since my father was in craft department, I learned almost all the craft related skills like carpentry, batik, clay work, drawing, painting, collage, block printing, needle craft even, and things like that. And then I saw how a teacher can be a little more holistic if all these skills are embedded. And now I see that they made a big difference. learning different skills. And that owes definitely to Neel Bagh, where we were exposed to many activities of our own choice. There was absolutely no rules, regulations, timetable. Somebody tells you what to do, but you choose for yourself. Somebody guides you and maybe shows a direction, and then it's up to you to make your own plan. Even something like a small garden, flower garden, you're told that you have a space there, you can work on it, but never there is a force that you should be working on it. But I think that sort of attitude and that sort of atmosphere in the school gave us a lot of freedom to choose, and a lot of brain work that went on in the process of making a choice. And also, when we look at the others who are doing gardening, we get inspired, we get pushed from within, not from external source. So I get motivated, I get interested, and I start doing my own garden. And then I have to decide what flowers I should plant in my garden, and then I have to take care. All that exercise, even though it was just about 5 feet by 4 feet or 6 feet or whatever we had, I think gave us a real experience of care, taking care, of feeling responsible. So small activities that were suggested, I would say suggested, because they were not always pushed. All those suggestions had a lot of philosophy behind, and now I can see that David had a lot of vision behind every single activity. And it was a communal activity rather than individual activity. And within that communal activity, there is an individual space where you have your own choices, your own way of doing things, your own experiences and your own perspectives, growing and enjoying the life for your own self, taking things at your own stride. One of the most important things that I find in the school was the pace in which you could study or progress. So it depends upon how quickly you are able to make a progress for yourself, not because somebody is pushing you, because you are interested, because you are excited, because you are exploring, right? So that really moved some girls and boys to take their own stride. Sometimes maybe a week you might be interested in something else, but another week you would get interested in academic and things like that. And there were so many exposures within the school. All of them had some impact or the other in the shaping of the being inside. And later, when I was actually working in the Blue Mountain School in Ooty, I suddenly realized that what David was doing was an extraordinary thing, because his philosophy, as I understand, is that if you are good at one thing of your own choice, that being good or that intelligence that grows through that particular choice, it gets spread to the other areas. Like if I'm interested in painting and drawing, there you put all your attention, all your mind, and you get accustomed to paying attention. You get the hang of what it is to be paying attention, and then if it is not painting, if it is mathematics, I can do the same. Otherwise, if the child is restricted to about, let's say, 6 subjects, and if the child is not interested, there ends the matter. The whole thing is mechanized. Whereas David was giving a panoramic view of education. In other words, you could say it is a holistic approach rather than fragmented approach. So in that whole, everything is included, right? So if you did many activities, one of them will catch your attention, one of them will take you deep into its own activity and teach you how to learn. So this how to learn is the most important aspect, I find. It is self-learned. It's not somebody else teaches you how to learn. So once you know how to learn, then you can learn many things as time demands, as situation demands. Later, you could find umpteen number of things demanding in your life. You could learn very easily because you know how to learn. So these are a few things that come out of Neel Bagh School, and I still carry them, and I still feel the relevance of all that. And in my career as a freelancer, my teachings, my propositions, my guidance is all based on David's philosophy of education or life as such, because we lived there, we've faced it, and we have experienced it, and we need not read books, right? So the life there is as much as tons of books that you would find, or more than that. So that really helps me to make my career new from moment to moment, and I don't have any written down syllabi for myself. I go by the situation, I go by the school, philosophy or school culture as such. So from that, I design my own way of tackling things, and I think all that came from the school where I lived with the teachers, the parents, and students as well. One of the most important things I feel is the younger ones learning from the older ones, and the teacher's role is only an observer. And this we got exposed how many years before? And today, in many curriculums, even in the national curriculum today, they speak about the peer group learning, and this is what is realized after so many years of Appa's, vision. And that again was carried out in other school I was talking about, the Blue Mountain School. So there I went there as a teacher, and I found that I was revising Neel Bagh learning, and I was consolidating what I had learnt in Neel Bagh. And that was a beautiful experience I had. 2 years with the teachers, with the children, with the philosophy at the backdrop, of course Krishnamurti's philosophy at the backdrop. But there I saw what I had learnt many years ago in Neel Bagh. I saw it running there, I saw it in action, and I am part of it. I am part of the whole activity, and I am also contributing in terms of helping children learn. Even there was a vertical grouping. We used to call family groups, FG1, FG2, FG3, wherein children from different age groups sat together, and one or two teachers would be sitting there, and the others are helping each other. Only when somebody is stuck or the elder ones are not able to help the younger one, then both of them go to the teacher. Both go. That's a beautiful thing, because it's not the young one who is learning who goes to the teacher. The elder one also goes because he doesn't know how to teach. So teaching comes naturally. Teaching comes quite naturally, and by teaching, learning is even more established. Because by attempting to teach the younger one, The elder one is discovering how to understand, discovering how to communicate. And this is a beautiful phenomena that happens without even training. Now today we need to train the teachers to do this. But there in that design of the entire culture of the school, it gave an opportunity for the student to learn for themselves, to discover for the self. This discovery for the self is an ultimate thing. If you don't discover for yourself, there is nobody who can teach you. Nothing, even the greatest teacher will not be able to teach. So this thing happened there quite naturally. Nobody talked about it. So it was such a wonderful phenomena of learning atmosphere. One of the most visionary kind of atmosphere that was created, which even today is a big challenge for many schools. Many schools will not be able to do that because of the numbers or whatever. But then what I tried in my career is to take these teachings to even a bigger numbers like 400, 500 children, 800 children, 1,000 children. And I must say, I was able to make small changes and I could bring a lot of changes in the school. And that change in the school brought in a cultural change, and also psychologically parent, the teacher, the school heads were rethinking about education. So that rethinking is something that I wanted to do in my career, and I wanted to initiate that. I wanted to see that a normal regular school which has infrastructure, children, parents, teachers, why can't they change their attitude? Why can't they change their perspective? Then the whole school can change. Then the child has a right atmosphere for learning. So this was my attempt, and I'm still going around. Initially, I traveled all over Andhra, and now I'm traveling all over India. My vivid experiences were spending time at the swing was a wonderful thing. Oh my God, one of these girls were going so high into the sky, and I used to try and compete with them, and we used to do gymnastics while we were swinging. That's a very, very vivid experience and extraordinary experience, I would say, still, because normally swinging is not so easy today, swinging so high up into the sky and then coming down. And we used to do somersaults in the swing as the swing goes past, That's a wonderful thing. And then we used to slip and jump as far as we can. And that was again a wonderful experience. And another a beautiful thing that we boys used to do, I think some girls also used to join, is crouch yourself in the tire, upper's car tire, and somebody else would roll behind, and you are inside and you are rolling and you don't know where you will end up. Right? You might bump into the wall, the roundhouse wall, you might bump into another child, you might get into a ditch, you can whatever, but we are prepared. That was a lot of fun, because somebody else will volunteer. I'll push, I'll drive, or I'll maneuver, and things like that. They used to come, and it used to be a great fun going in the tire. A lot of innovation in the tire like that. And the roundhouse thing was also a vivid thing, where we were given spaces to paint. Sometimes we were given how to build up things and all that. Carpentry, pottery, and painting, drawing, experiments, gardening, all that. Amma was in the garden, and she was such an inspiration for gardening and medicine and things like that. A vivid experience or memory of Appa is always sitting. We used to see from outside, and there was a glass window. We could see Appa sitting there and writing seriously. And we were not supposed to go there, but we used to sneak and peep and feel thrilled about, yeah, I saw Appa working. And he was deep in thought, and we really had no idea, clue as to what he was doing there, sitting hours together, you know. But later, today I understand that he was thinking locally and he was writing books. So much local, you know, when you look at his books, there were so many stories came from local area. And they were then published, went around the whole country, and people are reading those stories that generated around Neel Bagh, from the villages around there, from children maybe from the school, and so on and so forth. And that was a wonderful thing. He was inventing, he was trying the vocabulary, the culture, the setting, everything came from those areas. And for him, the school was an experience for him, first of all. So from his observations, he's making writings, he's making lessons, he's teaching the entire community, he's teaching the whole world from Neel Bagh. So he's sitting there, not just writing a couple of words, he's sharing the culture, he's sharing the stories from that area. And of course, some picnics that we remember, he used to drive us in his car, take us to the forest, and then, whatnot experiences. All weird things we used to do. Weird at that time, but today I see they're all great exploration and expeditions, like that. I think when children quarreled, particularly I think we boys used to quarrel quite a lot and hit each other or bump into each other or throw stones at each other. And immediately what we do is I'll go and tell Appa, okay? But Appa is not always available, you see. You have to go through a teacher, then Amma, and then Appa, because Appa is busy. You see, that is the impression we got. But if this issue is serious, it will go to Appa. If not directly, but indirectly. And later on, Appa will deal with it. Otherwise, teachers will deal, senior children will deal. Sometimes even parents are involved. Another very interesting thing I found was parents were involved so much into the school. And I remember there was once, I think most of our parents did a lot of drama and, dance and things like that. They learnt and they performed for the rest of the school. That was a wonderful thing. And Appa made sure that everybody is educated. There was adult literacy there happening. My mother learned how to write and read there. Of course, my father knew it earlier, but my mother learned. Today, my mother is 84 and she is reading stories in her free time. And that she always owes to Neel Bagh, because she was taught to read and write. She can do signature and all that. That was involving parents was a wonderful thing. So in a way, it was a holistic approach, not leaving out any stakeholder, which is exactly what I am now doing in my freelancing, and I call my organization STEP: student, teacher, educator, and parent. These are the four stakeholders we need to tackle when promoting holistic education. Now I'm promoting holistic approach to education, and I'm still working with teachers, students, parents, and school heads, like that.